What's up, my name's JB, welcome to my World at War Zombies Remastered series. In this video I'll be showing changes to the menu, user interface, and all the new settings. What do I mean by this? Well, these are changes I've scripted into Call of Duty World at War as a free to download mod available in the description. We begin on the desktop where I have 4 shortcuts with unique icons that allow you to launch the desired mod after installation without any extra setup. Upon loading in, you'll notice that the main menu looks a little bit different. So it's been polished off, I've added in a few new menus, and I've also removed menus that do not relate to zombies. And this first category we're going to look at has to do with the actual map. So we can start the match here without having to mess with any menus or commands. We just press start. We also have cooperative, and then we have map intel. So map intel shows information about the map, including the list of achievements if available. We can see that each achievement has a name, description, and image, and you can track your progress through these. If you close the game and you come back, everything will be saved. These achievements were of course ported from the console version because they were never actually available on PC. We also on the right side have a image, name, and description of the map. Shi No Numa also has some achievements available as well, in addition to Riese. This next section has to do with people. So first up we have character bios, which again have been ported over from the console version as they were never available on PC. Here you can read about each of the 4 heroes with the description and image of the character. Some of the grammar has been tidied up, but otherwise the content remains exactly the same, as well as the Easter egg hidden within. We also have options for profile and friends, like the normal game. And then the last section has to do with logistics. We have options, mods, and the quit button. Inside the options page, we'll notice that I've added in a ton of new settings for you to go through. So first in graphics, we'll notice that I've added a fog setting. You can disable fog if you wish. We also have a mode called cinematic mode, which will make the colors much more saturated, like the trailers for each of the DLC maps, if desired. And then in texture settings, we can also adjust the load range, which is the level of detail, and will increase the detail of models at different ranges. And then under sound, we also have an option to disable character dialogue, if so desired. And then under game options is where the bulk of my new settings are at. So at the top we have settings that you cannot change in-game. So the new ones I've added are all gameplay related. We have game type, last stand, and enemy pushing. All of these can be set to classic, which I have on screen, but by default it will be a setting called modified default, which is what my changes are in this mod. So by default I've removed the 24 zombie limit in solo, but if you want to go back to classic you can totally do so and re-add that limit. This setting also adjusts carpenter power-ups and it removes them if you put it on classic. Then in last stand, we can also put this back to classic. By default, I've made it so you bleed out in 45 seconds in co-op, like Black Ops 1, and you also have solo quick revive lives, again, like Black Ops 1, but if you want to go back to classic and make it much harder, you can totally do so. And then lastly, we have enemy pushing, which has to do with the grabbing effect. By default, Treyarch put it so that enemy AI could push you, which meant if you touched AI, you would get stuck to them, and so by default, I've removed that, but you can put it back to classic if you wish. And next we have some individual settings relating to the player. These make it easy so you don't have to mess with console commands, but now if you want to disable the HUD, display your FPS on screen, change the FPS limit or remove it, change your FOV, you can all do so now with the menu and you don't have to go into the console. We also have a button to enable controller support without having to type in a console command. However, keep in mind that if you don't use an Xbox controller, you'll need to also have an external program. And speaking of controllers, if we look under the look controls settings, we now have an easy button to change our controller inversion and our controller sensitivity. This uses the same scale as the controller sensitivity from console, which will make it easy for console players to adjust to PC. Now what's really cool about all these settings is that the game will remember them no matter what you do. If you quit the game, play a different mod, or play a different map. Now we're ready to head in-game, but before we do so, let's check out the cooperative menus. So we have full co-op support in this mod. You can play with friends just like the original game. If we go to create a lobby, we'll see that the map is automatically loaded in, so you don't have to mess with any settings or accidentally play the wrong map. If we go to game setup, we'll see that some of the settings have been carried over from the game options. These are settings that are relevant to a co-op lobby because they affect all other players. Only the host will be able to decide these settings and not the other players. And if you're ever bored waiting in the lobby, you can now look at the map intel and character bios while you wait. Alright, so now if we want to play solo, all we have to do is just click start match and it will be put onto the loading screen. However, there have been changes to the loading screens. You'll notice that in co-op I've put new hints relating to the mod so that you can read about information relating to the project. I also removed any Intel sponsorships from the first 2 loading screens, so the screens look much more clean like the console version. So when we load in, the first thing you might notice is that the HUD elements have been slightly adjusted so nothing is directly touching the border of the screen. You can see this most easily with the round counter and ammo counter. You'll also notice that the game remembers I put my FOV to 90 on the main menu. So I'll be showing off all the other HUD changes in a moment, but first I want to take a quick look at all the settings that I looked at on the main menu and see how they show up in game. This is what the game looks like with fog disabled and the cinematic mode enabled. So you can mess around with these settings as you wish if you want to use them. Otherwise, if you don't, you can just keep it on the vanilla settings like me. So let's take a closer look at the HUD. One of the things I wanted to do was update the quality of some of the textures, but I didn't want to mess with the art style. I still wanted everything to look very faithful to the original game, but just a little bit higher quality. So you can see that with the perk icons and power-up icons, I've updated them. I've also updated the grenade icon so that depending on what type of frag grenade you have, the pickup icon and bottom right icon will actually reflect that. I've also updated the monkey bomb icon to fit with something that I thought was a little bit more recognizable. I also updated the flamethrower icon in the bottom right so it looks a lot less blurry. So overall, the HUD should look a little bit cleaner in my mod, but nothing over the top that's too unrecognizable. So another change I'm really proud of is I've actually updated the in-game font. So throughout this whole video, you've been looking at the new font, and you might notice that it looks exactly the same, because it is, but it's just been slightly upscaled to look higher quality. So this is especially noticeable in the bottom left when we look at the round counter icon. We can see that the number is much less blurry, and it looks actually pretty good. I've also added a couple of dev commands that are only accessible through console commands, so if you want to go behind the scenes and change your character, you can now do so. By default, it will be set to 0, which is a random character. However, if we type character and then the number of the character we want to be as, we can easily change to a different one. So Dempsey is player 1, Nikolai is player 2, Takio is player 3, and then Richtofen is player 4. The next command is health_HUD, which when set to a value of 1, will put a health HUD on your screen so you can see what health you have. This is pretty useful when you're testing out features of World at War to see what various things do to you, whether it be zombies, splash damage, etc.
There's gotta be a power switch around here somewhere.
And then last but not least, another cool feature, thanks to using T4M, is that we can see our scoreboard in solo, so that's a really cool feature. So all the changes to the menu, settings, and UI are all uniform across each of the 4 maps, so no matter which one you load up, they will all have these remastered features. However, there is one exception, which is that on Nacht der Untoten and Verrückt, we actually have an extra setting called enemy intensity, and this has to do with the intensity of zombie waves. In my mod, I added in new cut super sprinter variants to Nacht der Untoten and Verrückt, because I felt like they really just fit the atmosphere of these maps and made them all more fun and intense. So that's going to be it for this video. If you want to see more changes in this mod, be sure to subscribe. I'll be posting videos about cut content, restored weapons, Easter eggs, bug fixes, and plenty of other cool changes that I've made in this mod. Now, if you want to play the mod for yourself, you can download it in the description, and I also have a video tutorial for installation if you need any help. Thanks for watching.